Thanks for joining us today here on America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys Formula, America's Medicare Associates and Retirement Tax Partners with Nolan Baker and Scott Kersner. 419-794-3030 is the phone number. The website to find out more about the team. Set up a time to speak with them, arhq.com. Right now, we are about halfway through the open enrollment period. People that are on Advantage plans, what should they know about their options? What are some reasons an individual would consider making a change to their plan? And quite frankly, what are the deadlines for making these changes?
Well, guys, you know that looking at the annual enrollment period, looking at, the last quarter of last year, I know how many meetings that you guys had with people coming in and looking at, the plan changes. And I think, if we look at the open enrollment period this year, there's some big changes that went into effect. I think when you guys were so busy and, working and meeting with so many people, I was celebrating the holidays. One thing that I think about is we had hosted the holidays at our house for both Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I go down typically 2, 3, maybe 4 times a year, and I get the Ronco rotisserie chicken out of the basement.
Set it and forget it.
And we set it and forget it. And my wife, we make prime rib, we make chicken, we make just fantastic stuff for the holidays. When you think about, Medicare and you think about that, a lot of people just take a set it and forget it type of an approach. But this year in 2025, I think is important to not necessarily do that, especially if you have a Medicare Advantage plan. And the reason being is we had something called the Inflation Reduction Act that went into effect. And with the Inflation Reduction Act, what they did is something that seems good, right? They put a cap on the maximum out-of-pocket prescription that a consumer on Medicare would have to pay on the Advantage plan. But look, folks, the insurance companies, as well as the prescription drug companies, are not in the business of losing money, right? So, whatever happens that's designed to be a positive, there tends to be a side impact of that. And what we've seen some changes that have happened. And so if you're on Medicare Advantage, one of the things that people should be looking at right now when they're thinking about their different options that they have.
Well, Nolan, you brought up a really, really good point there. The Inflation Reduction Act did cause a lot of uncertainty. I guess maybe would be the right word. A lot of people weren't really sure exactly how things were going to play out and what was going to happen.
And that includes the carriers from their perspective as well.
Absolutely. The carriers didn't know because this was handed down to them, and they said, okay, deal with it, right?
Right. Figure out how to operationalize it.
Figure it out. And, a lot of these insurance companies didn't exactly know how to do that and what to do. And, one of the things that I've come across over the past couple of weeks, some of the clients that I enrolled and Dan and Troy enrolled in during the AEP, we're getting some phone calls. I dealt with a client just last week. It was actually quite frustrating for us because the client is negatively impacted by this. They called up and said, hey, you told me that a doctor was in the network, which we always look and verify. We're required to do so,
sure.
Right?
Right from the carrier website.
Part of our AHIP certification is we have to do this, right? And, the frustrating thing is when they said, well, I called my doctor's office and they said, we don't take that plan. And I says, well, let me check. So, now I'm second guessing myself and I log into the company portal, and sure enough, right there, it shows that doctor is in the network.
Correct.
A lot of times, and Dan, you dealt with this a lot, coming from the company side. Now you're, obviously on our team, but a lot of times the actual provider, the doctor's office, you may talk to somebody in records, or you may talk to that receptionist, and if they're the ones that are answering the question, they don't really know whether they take the plan or not. And the easy answer is, I don't know, or we don't take that.
And Scott, they're not going to know if their doctor's office is owned by a corporation if they're in negotiations with that carrier.
Exactly.
That happened this year.
Yeah, exactly. And another one of the calls that I was able to help a client with was my doctor put me on a new medication, and that medication is not part of the formulary. What do I do? One of the things during the open enrollment period, it runs from January 1st through March 31st. This is the time where you get that one free do-over. For any of you golfers listening out there, it's your mulligan, so to speak, right? Or your breakfast ball. A lot of people say it's the breakfast ball.
And it's important to note that it's the Medicare Advantage open enrollment period. So it only applies to people that are on an existing Medicare Advantage plan.
That's correct. Like a Medicare supplement or a prescription drug plan, it doesn't pertain to that. It's only the Advantage plans. This is the period of time where you get that one free do-over to make that change. So if you have a new medication, you can change to a plan that will cover that medication. This particular client was put on a new medication and that it wasn't covered, and that drug was roughly $1,300 a month.
Right.
Okay, so they were put in a situation where they either don't take the drug, which is never the right situation. Not advisable. Or they pay that out of pocket, which they weren't willing to do, or we move them to another plan. So these are things that we take care of here. We go through and validate and verify that your medications and your doctors and hospitals are in network. Dan, what does that look like from a company side? Because I know that you were there for roughly 25 years working on the company side. What other input might you have on that?
So, Nolan, to your point, the set it and forget it, that's what it used to be. Medicare took the open enrollment period away from the consumers in 2011, and they brought it back several years ago. But from a company side, what they're confined by Medicare to what they can and cannot do as far as advertising, as far as promoting that, yes, you can make a change. So from a company side, they're always making sure that the clients that they enroll are trying to make sure that they're on the best plan available for them, make minimal changes to formularies quarterly, and try to make sure that those doctors do stay in the network.
When you say the set it and forget it, a lot of times when we do our events, I'll go through and take a survey amongst those guests that are in the room, and I'll ask how many of you currently are on Medicare, and then most of them, some of them will raise their hand, and then of those of you already on Medicare, how many of you have an independent advisor like us? And it's shocking the number that don't.
Right.
So here's the thing that I want you listeners that are on a plan, a Medicare Advantage plan, that don't have an advisor right now. If you're running into an issue with a prescription or a doctor or a facility not in network,
Right.
your recourse, you think that setting it and forgetting it is going to automatically put that doctor in your network or automatically get that prescription covered. It's not. And your company is not going to help you or reach out to you, because if you're direct with a particular company, that company is not going to tell you, well, this other company offers that benefit and covers that prescription. That's not going to happen. These are value adds that AMA and our team provide to you, is the flexibility of knowing that we represent all of the carriers in this Northwest Ohio area, and we're able to shop the market for you. There's no cost when you sit down and talk with us. We go through all of the plan benefits, and we make sure that you're on the right plan moving through the rest of that year. That's what we do here at AMA.
Scott, just going back a second, what you said, the company's not going to notify you that a prescription's changed or a doctor's out of network. Medicare requires the company to notify you of a significant network change.
Right.
Now, so the problem is define significant.
Exactly.
Right? So that's why people would benefit from working with a Medicare advisor.
And your doctor going out of the network is not as significant as far as they're concerned. It's significant to you, but not to us, not to them.
Right.
I guess, the final thought here is we, end this segment on open enrollment period is deadlines, right? So I think about deadlines in the financial services business, whether it's 55, 59, 65, 62, and all those other deadlines. Open enrollment period, what's the deadline?
The deadline is actually March 31st. And one important thing to remember, there is no cost whatsoever to sit down and talk with us. We don't charge fees. There's never a cost for you to sit down and talk with us to do a review. And if we think you're on the best plan, we're going to tell you that.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're not going to try to put you into a plan just because it benefits us. It's you that matters, and we always want to make sure that we're looking out for your best interest. And remember, no fees, no charges for us to sit down and talk with you. If you want to get together with us, you can reach out to us at americasmedicareassociates.com. That's our website, or arhq.com as well.
We certainly hope this isn't the case, but perhaps as you've been getting your first appointments in for the year for 2025, you may have gotten a little bit of sticker shock, finding out that things aren't on formulary anymore. Your doctor is no longer in network. We hope that is not the case again, but do not think that you are resigned to that for the remainder of the year. The open enrollment period is exactly what this is for, making that one-time change, but the window is closing. You've only got until the end of March, so reach out to the team at America's Medicare Associates. Or if you have questions about your retirement in general, as a whole, things that we've talked about this week on the show, or you just want a second set of eyes on your plan as it stands, America's Retirement Headquarters, the entire team, the Retirement Guys Formula, America's Medicare Associates, Retirement Tax Partners, they are here for you. Just give a call, 419-794-3030. It's 419-794-3030. You can always find them online, as Scott said a second ago, arhq.com. Want to thank you, as always, for joining us here on America's Retirement Headquarters. Hope you have a great week ahead of you. Hope you stay safe out there. Gentlemen, always a pleasure. Appreciate the time. And as we wrap up, want to leave you with the final word.
Yeah, have a fantastic weekend. Have a great weekend. Just remember, when you think retirement, think America's Retirement Headquarters. It's home of the Retirement Guys Formula, America's Medicare Associates, and Retirement Tax Partners. We'll see you next week here on Toledo's largest talk station, 1370 WSPD, and also on your favorite YouTube channel or podcast.